Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, in previous years I've always taken the flower spikes from the garlic plants and I've just thrown them away. But we've got about 40 elephant garlic here and they've all got the spikes on now, and this year I'm going to cut them off about 8 inches below the seed bulb, and then we're going to roast them and have them for tea. And there we go, two lovely bunches of scapes. Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, those scapes were enjoyed. I'll just pop a picture-in-picture photograph so you can see what they look like. They were roasted in olive oil with a little bit of seasoning, and there were enough flower spikes to provide a side dish, if you will, for 2 meals for 3 people, and they were really nice and we enjoyed them very much. It's been ever so hot, and this is probably going to be on the short side, this update, because I've just been so busy. I've been down in the mornings at about 7 and I've stayed till about midday, and then I've not come back until about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then I've watered for a couple of hours. I've been watering probably 3 hours each day. Today's Sunday, the 31st of May, and it's 6:30 PM and it's 26 degrees. There's a light breeze blowing which offers some solace, some comfort, because it does cool you down. That's quite nice. But as I say, it's been a bit of a slog this last week. I really don't know how I managed when I was working. I've not worked now for the last 11 weeks, and I've been able to devote more time than usual, so I've managed to do quite well with the plot, although there is a lot of weeding to be done, I have to say. But anyway, I'll show you briefly a few of the things that I've done, and I'll show you what I'm about to do as well. It's time to take up the remainder of the overwintering onions, because we need that bed for brassicas. Catch you in a minute. Well, the potatoes, the second earlies, are doing really well. To say that the tops were all burned off with the frost. As I emphasised in a recent update, the bed on the left here seems to be a little bit faster in terms of growth than the one on the right. Exactly the same plants, exactly the same soil, but the bed on the left wasn't disturbed at all. We just took the tops of the plants that were there last year away and left it, whereas the bed on the right had Autumn King 2 carrots, and obviously we had to disturb the soil to get all the roots out, and I think it's quite telling really, the difference that that's made. I've watered these beds 3 times, and copiously as well. Stood here for about an hour on each occasion with a hose, which I don't like doing, but we're quite away from the water butts here, so it's just as easy to go to the tap, and we're very lucky to have a tap right outside one of our plots. So there are the potatoes, and you can see just ahead of them I've planted out the sunflowers, and these are dwarf varieties. I think there are 3 or 4 different varieties, one of which is teddy bear, one is pacino, I forget what the others are, but I think there are 4 varieties. And look at the sweet williams, they look absolutely gorgeous. The 2 rows there, but also up at the top, they're doing quite well as well. I'll just show you those up at the top. Well, the ones opposite are the sweet william that were sown in autumn of last year, and you can see they are quite vigorous and probably 2 feet in height, whereas the ones just in front of me here, these were actually sown the previous autumn, so that's 18 months ago. They flowered really well last year. We cut them back and just left them just to see how they'd perform growing back for a second year. And as you can see, we've got plants of varying heights. Some of the plants are okay, they're still quite vigorous. Not quite as tall as the ones opposite at the bottom of the two beds, but the ones in the middle are quite a bit shorter, and these are self-sown plants. Seeds obviously fallen away from the plants as they've died back, and you can see the little clumps there with the lush foliage. They're all self-sown plants, and we had a little bit of dieback in this area, but the self-sown plants have kind of grown to infill that space. You can see we've got sticks in here, and there were 8 dahlias here last year, and they were left in the ground, and you can see one just there has come back through. I've not examined the others closely enough. I may need to just free the area around the base of the stakes just so that they can come through okay. But with a bit of luck we might have 4 or 5 dahlias come through as well. We'll take a quick look in the working greenhouse, and as you can see we're just looking at leaf crops really, cut and come again. Pak choy, spinach and chard. And the pak choy on the left is just started to go to seed, but the pak choy is actually okay, the darker green variety, but it's the lighter tatsoi that seems more readily to want to bolt. But I've been taking the flowers out as they've come, and we're still eating it. These were sown a little bit later, and again the tatsoi, as you can see, have gone to seed, a few of them. But we're still eating them, and they still taste fine. We must have had about 7 or 8 cuts from the spinach. I thought it was the red kitten, but I think it's actually a different variety. And you can see there again, this may be just about to go to seed as well. There's just one there, a seed had. Clumps of chard that weren't, these were multi-sown, but they weren't separated. Some of the plants were separated into modules, but I just left these as they were. And then over on the right here, 2 trays of lettuce. This is the Symphony, and that's ready to cut, and a mixed red and green. And then over on the back here we've got 3 freshly sown trays of lettuce. I did that this morning. We've got some mixed oriental, some more red and green, and some more Symphony. Over here on the right we've got a few flowers that were sown, and some beetroot, boltardy beetroot in the corner. And then we've got some cosmos and some carnations. They were very late to be sown, so I thought I'd chance my arm anyway. And you can see we've got a few tomatoes here still, 2 in the corner there, and 2 there, 1 there, 1 there. And on the floor we've got a few brassicas, and I've just noticed my Wellington boots just fallen on these. I think these might be flowers just here. That was clever. Move that out of the way. And these are, let's just have a look. Yeah, carnations. These were plants that I pricked out the other day. Should be okay, notwithstanding that the oaf let his Wellington boot fall on them. So that's the working greenhouse. We'll go and take a look at the overwintering onions now. And these are the overwintering onions that are left. I did take 8 out, and I took them to Ron because he's been unwell over this last 3 or 4 weeks, and we think he's had the virus. He's been really poorly, not been admitted to hospital, but arguably should have been, and he's very weak at the moment and convalescing and recovering slowly but surely. But I did take him about 8 the other day. Show you a picture-in-picture look at those onions that I took up. They were 8 of the bigger ones. They're all big enough to take now, but I need this space to put in some of the remaining brassicas. I've got some January King that I need to put in, and some broccoli as well. So that's my job for this evening. And the ground's so hard that I'm going to have to dig these onions out with a trowel because it's like concrete. So they're our overwintering onions for 2019/2020. There are about 30 in total, 2 dozen here I would say of decent sized ones. When I say decent sized, they're not the biggest you'll ever see, but they're more than adequate, and they'll keep us going until the overwintering shallots are ready and until the main crop onions come online as well. So I'll divide these with my cousin Ron, and now we've got a bed that's pretty much clear to put some brassicas in. You can see just on the edge of the bed at the side of me, this is one of the 3 25-foot beds. I've put some sunflowers in there as well, and the hope is that we'll have a splash of colour in different parts of the site on the edges of the beds. You can see the Sweet William at the bottom there. These are dwarf sunflowers. There are some dwarf sunflowers down there as well. And just up here, if I can zoom in, oh, we are zoomed in, against that far fence there, I think I've got about 25 giant sunflowers, so of mixed colours. So we're well on his way. Still some beds to fill though, and hopefully they'll be filled in the coming days with brassicas, beetroot and broccoli, and flowering broccoli for next spring as well. But as you can see, I've got my work cut out. I've got a lot of weeding to do. Hey ho, well, such is life. But the weather, whilst on the one hand has been quite onerous, because it's meant that I've had to do such a lot of watering, it has been quite pleasant as well in the mornings and evenings to work in. These are the main crop potatoes, and looking a little bit spindly and a little bit sorry for themselves at the moment because they've had no rain since they were planted in the middle of March. We're now on the 31st of May. So yeah, hopefully the next couple of weeks, I keep saying that, we'll get some rain. Just take a look at the potatoes in pots up at the top there. And we've about 13 pots here, and I think I can feel a potato reveal coming on very shortly, because we've got several plants now that are in flower. And as you probably know, if you've been growing potatoes for a while, as soon as the flowers come on the first and second earlies, you can chance your arm, and if you've been watering well and the weather's been good, then you might, you know, get a decent harvest of potatoes. These are Charlotte and Kestrel, and as I say, we've about 13 plants there. You can see underneath brassicas hardening off in the shade, and a few down here as well. That's been one of the other hard things about the weather as well, finding place to harden off your greens. I've put some in the cold frame, but often it gets too hot in there, so they get bobbed in different bits of shadow around the site. This is the second greenhouse, and as you can see, all the tomatoes are caned up now and tied in, and they've all been side shooted. And we'll maybe focus on the tomatoes and the maintenance in a subsequent update. Well, that's it for this update. I did say it'd be a short one. Bit of a whirlwind tour, but at least you've had a quick look round. You can see what's still to be done. I've a lot of weeding to do. I've put that on the back burner, but I've just been so busy watering. I've been watering, as I say, 3-4 hours a day, a couple of hours in the morning, then an hour or two at night, and I've had no option but to do that really, because it's not just the greenhouses that need to be watered, it's all the pots, and I've several dozen of pots, potatoes, tomatoes, you name it. But it's also the young plants that you've just planted out, like the sweet corn, all the young brassicas, the sunflowers that I showed you as well, and there are a lot of them. I've 30 odd sunflowers, they've all got to be watered. Do that with a watering can. I might use 5 or 6 watering cans just to water those. So yeah, with a bit of luck, in updates to come, we might be a little bit more structured, and I might be able to have more of a thoughtful focus on individual plants and the maintenance. But for now, that's it. So it just remains for me to thank you for watching and being patient. Yeah, we'll see you again soon, hopefully, and catch you later. Cheers, all the best.